Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing the last installment in my Season 1 of Masters of Horror series. And so the episode I'm doing today is Imprint. And this episode actually does not have a release date. It was actually pulled from airing on Showtime, which is pretty interesting. I was like, oh, what the heck could this have had? They got it pulled from Showtime. This episode was directed by Takashi Miike, and it stars Billy Drago as Christopher. So let's get into what this episode is about. So Christopher is an American journalist. This takes place in a Victorian era, and he is in Japan searching for this woman that he had met who he promised that he was going to save from sex work and bring her to America. And her name is Komo'o. And he is taken to this island, and it's basically an island for sex work. And there are all these girls, and they're like caged up, and it's just very weird. And he's looking for this woman and can't find Komo'o, so I guess he settles for this woman who is in the back of this like cage who doesn't want to be chosen, I guess. The head woman of this organization, I guess, is like, you need to get over there and work. And so he decides to pick her. And so he goes and spends the night with her, and he is like, do you know about Komo'o? I am trying to find her so I can bring her to America and save her from this. And she's like, yeah, Komo'o was here, but she recently hung herself. And he kind of becomes really distraught, and he's like, what? She would never do something like that. And something happens, and he just starts drinking. And let me say, before I get too far, this woman is disfigured. She's got I don't even know how I would describe it, but like half of her face is almost, it almost looks like something was pulled up and like twisted a little bit. And so while he is drinking, he's like, tell me a story. So she tells him the story of how she became a sex worker. And she says that her mother was a midwife, and after her father had died, her mother had to sell her to this brothel so that they can have money or whatever, and that they would reunite at some point. And then she kind of goes through her history at the brothel, tells him about Komo'o and how she was basically tortured because the like headmistress or whatever had lost a ring, and Komo'o was apparently the one that had stolen it. And so he's like, something must not be right, because she would not do that. So she begins to retell the story. And she does this 2 times for a total of 3 altogether. And each time the story gets darker and darker. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because there's some pretty interesting things that happen in this episode. So let's get into the things that I liked and didn't like about this episode. So I will say that I overall enjoyed this episode, if you could say it was enjoying. It was definitely a tough watch. Something interesting about this episode is I have a friend who is really into Japanese culture and things like that, so I was like, hey, you want to watch this? He was like, sure. And so he came over one night after a party, because we were in the same fraternity, but I had already become an alumni and he was still in it. So they had went to a party, and he brought this girl over who was one of his friend's friends, and we had never met before, and it was her first time meeting me. And I gave a warning on this episode. I said, this is pretty extreme. There is some pretty bizarre stuff in this, and it's a little bit hard to watch. It was taken off of broadcast from Showtime. I would definitely not recommend this, but she was like, oh, yeah, sure, it's fine. We get halfway through the episode, and all I start hearing is sobbing, like so hard, and I felt so bad. I turned it off because I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this to this girl. She is definitely going to be scarred for life. And it took a long time for her to stop sobbing, and I was like, oh my god, what do I do? We were all a little tipsy, and I felt so bad. And I turned on something that was a lot lighter and not as bad. And so this is definitely, there definitely needs to be a content warning on this episode. I like that it went places and that it wasn't afraid to shy away from some heavy topics. And then let's get into the things that I didn't like. I didn't like that I felt like it might have been a little bit like too graphic for graphic's sake. It had a lot of things in it, like a lot of different things, and I think that's probably why it was banned, because if it just had one or two, I think that they probably would have let it slide, but this just kept piling on the controversial topics and things like that. And I think that's part of the reason why it actually got banned. And so the only way that you can watch it is on DVD or Blu-ray. I don't know if it's streaming, if you can watch it on streaming, but it definitely was not aired on Showtime. So now that we've heard what I had to say about this episode, let's talk about what other people had to say about this episode. It has a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and it has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. And I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It is definitely one of the better episodes of the series, so I would, I guess, recommend it to you guys, but I would definitely recommend that you look into it first and maybe even read the synopsis. It's definitely pretty graphic, and there are definitely some things that, if you're sensitive to certain topics, could be very traumatizing, and I know that from firsthand experience. But that is it for this review. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Imprint, if you've seen it, whether you like it, you don't like it, and why. And be sure to check back next week on Wednesday when I do my ranking of every episode in season 1. But if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day. Bye.